我认为，在未来的那个川普总统执政时期，对中国的贸易关系将成为他的政策的主要部分。
I think during the Trump administration, the trade relationship with China will be a major policy he has.
而迫使中国政府尊重人权，改善扩大中国的市场，包括让中国政府遵守法律，这个将成为川普政府的政策的重要的部分。
To force China to improve its human rights condition and to increase its open its market, and I think it will be a very important policy.
我想在这个问题上 ，CECC 将有可能发挥非常重要的作用。
I think in this regard, CECC could be able to have a very important function.
为了节省时间，我让我的助手把英文稿念完。
So to save time, I will let my English to be read by my assistant. When Donald Trump becomes president of the USA, he's planning to abolish the TPP and to begin a trade war with China in order to save the U.S. economy. Some people say that this is a disaster. I would say this is the right way that should have started even earlier. The reality after 16 years will explain my position. Granting China permanent most favored nation status, that is a permanent normal trade relationship, was a huge mistake. It did not promote the development of the U.S. economy, but was a blood transfusion from the USA to the Chinese economy. It gave China the opportunity to engage in trade war with the United States. The reason is as follows. The so-called free trade refers to a unified law based on domestic market, thus allowed free trade. Such a free trade can be carried out normally between countries with a similar legal system. There cannot be normal free trade between countries with completely different legal systems. For example, after trade with China liberated, there were two main problems. One was cheap labor. One was its uncertain laws that always change. Since Chinese law does not guarantee human rights, it is able to keep labor price at a very low level. This has led to the relocation of the U.S. companies to foreign countries, while also allowed Chinese goods enter the U.S. market with low prices, resulting in unfair competition. It is an important cause of unemployment in the United States. China's precarious legal system creates serious non-tariff barriers. Any local government can develop their own laws and regulations without the need to implement the signed treaties and agreements between the Chinese central government and the foreign countries. So they can actually close their targeted import market, coupled with the manipulation of the currency by the Chinese central government. Those actions increase the exports and create the huge trade surpluses for China. This is an important reason causing the economic recession in the USA. Some people would say, for the USA, fighting a trade war with China will end in defeat, at least a loss result. I think such a statement are to confuse the U.S. policymakers. I think the USA will win this trade war, while China can only succumb to rules developed by the United States. Otherwise, it will accelerate the collapse of the Chinese communist regime. My reasons are as follows. First, for the majority of the goods are in the buyer's market. The United States holds the market. Thus, it has a power to develop rules instead of forcing itself to comply with that so-called global free trade rules that cannot be enforced. The United States can formulate its own fair trade rules to replace the invalid so-called free trade rules. Second, The Chinese domestic market is narrow and cannot afford the disaster of losing the U.S. market. So China can only compromise on the rules thus to protect the parts of the market share. Third, in the past, due to overexpansion of export production of shopping goods, the quality of Chinese enterprises is very poor. In order to adapt to a fair market in the competition, Chinese companies must quickly upgrade. Therefore, there will be great demand for the technology and service from the U.S. to open up the import market in the U.S. This will help expand the U.S. exports and reduce its trade deficit with China. Fourth, after improving human rights in China, the income of Chinese working class will increase. Therefore, the domestic consumer market will expand. This expansion would benefit the U.S. exporters after fair trade, therefore reducing the U.S. trade deficit and even eliminating it. So I think that the U.S. will win the trade war, and in the long run will also be beneficial to the economic normalization in China. China must accept and should accept that. Thank you.
Mr. Wei, thank you so very much for your leadership and for your testimony today, recommendations. I'd like to now yield to